Testing 1 2 3. Oh, testing 1 2 3. Other mics? Yeah, we got one back here. Pass around. Okay.
So
that's not me. Does anybody here remember the Police Academy movies and that guy who did the sound effects?
Oh, yeah. Did you just do the
No. I was just thinking about that because he would do something like that. Stop a whole room. And here's the man of the hour himself, Marwan Cameron.
I'm Jeff. How are you doing? Good to see you. Glad that you were able to come. How are you, sir?
Hey, good.
Good to see you.
Good to see you.
Thanks for coming.
You bet.
Erica, everyone else. You got a tie on? I'm liking that. How are you doing?
Listen, did you connect with my buddy Jocelyn?
Yes. Is she coming?
I haven't connected with her recently.
Not recently. How you doing? I've been in here since the change. I don't even recognize you.
Yeah.
Looks pretty cool. I like it. So Rob's gonna go ahead and set up, and then we'll go ahead and get going.
We're already live.
Oh, we're already live.
Yeah.
Oh my
So
goodness.
This is when I fall over with a lily on my chest. We're live.
Oh, no, that's Mark. Mark, the pancake, your pancake,
Already made.
I know, it's gluten-free, what else?
It does have milk in it, but it is gluten-free. It's got ginger, garlic, zucchini, mushrooms, onions, peppers. I think that's it. Oh, celery.
Okay, but it's corn-free too, isn't it?
It is absolutely corn-free.
Yeah.
But I did forget the liquid aminos today.
Oh,
I was in a hurry to get out the house. So they're going quickly.
Oh. You made it for the group.
Yeah, there's some people that are gluten-free, me being one of them. So I always make a small batch of the gluten-free vegetable pancakes. They're called okonomiyaki. Yeah, okonomiyaki. It basically means leftover, or I don't know if it translates directly this way, but in Japan, they think of it as a leftover pancake. So all of the stuff that you had left over from the night before, you would put into pancake.
My mic on? Oh, it is on. Mr. Rev, you want to kill that music for me? Because if it is copyright music, we won't be able to have any of that air. All right. Welcome, everybody. This is our monthly, I was going to say annual. It's not annual. Pancake breakfast. Every fourth Wednesday, we do this from 11 to about 2 p.m. Every fourth Thursday, we do our neighborhood barbecue in different neighborhoods. Tomorrow we'll be at Viewcrest Village, a 300-unit complex. So pray for my staff because they're going to be dead on their feet after this is over. I can see the look in Keyshawn's eyes. He's like, oh my God. So it'd be a lot of fun. But we have a conversation every week. Matt, why don't you come on down? You should be down here already. And for those of you that are new, at 1 p.m., we have a show, Tipping Point and Puzzle Pieces, with Resilient Ecosystems and the founder and the president, Mark Boatwright Frost. And then at 3 p.m., we have a podcast centered around housing and conversations. And we have KCR, Bremerton Housing Authority. Every second Wednesday, Kirsten Jewell from the county is on. She says hi, by the way. But she is super busy. And then in the evening now, we have a new show where we are covering the city council meetings. And then we have a show post that meeting to talk about what we've taken from that with myself and Jeff Campbell. So Wednesdays are pretty busy, but the point of the Conduit podcast is to give voice to those that don't have voice, to connect people together. You know, those that are running programs, but then those that are also on the receiving end of programs, and put them in the same space, and also provide food, create relationship and fellowship. And as I was saying at the Kitsap Strong event, you know, we can leverage our knowledge, skills, and abilities to build the community that we want to see. And so it doesn't take a bunch of money. It doesn't take a bunch of education. It just takes desire and a willing heart to try different things. And I tell folks that I don't lose. I either win or I learn. And so we learn through trial and error, right? But I'm not fearful of trying something. And if it doesn't quite work, well, let's try something else. But I appreciate everyone for coming today. And we have guests today, which is awesome. And we seem to get different people every time. And so I'm going to have, folks kind of come down and talk about, why they came today and what they're up to and how we can support what it is that they do. So all of you want to come on down. There's plenty of chairs. That's why it was set like this. So come on down. And I'm going to move here to the side. And in the interim, while people are coming down, Mark, you want to just give us an update as to what's been going on in the resilient ecosystems world, and then pass it on to Matt?
Okay, well, most of you already heard some of the updates as we were talking around the room. First of all, Pastor Ellington has a sign-up form at the back. We are actively looking to build the coalition behind the Kitsap Resiliency Project. And the more signatures we get, the better we are toward making it happen. And essentially what it is supporting building community and building community resilience and getting word out to people and getting the neighborhoods to be informed. I did want to point out, because I don't think Marwan's heard this either, that I have been invited to present to the Suquamish Advisory Council on Community and Networks on the 7th of July. So, and then finally, the second volume, which is actually the first volume, but it's labeled number 2, of the Resilient Neighborhood, Resilient Community Playbook, is being published on Amazon as of Friday. So please put your name on the form and support community growth.
Yeah, my name is Matthew Garrett. I'm the Housing Community Support Services Director with Kitsap Community Resources. Thanks for having me. I don't have a ton of time, so I'm sorry, Marwan. I'll probably have to bug out of here in a little bit. I apologize. But yeah, our right now we there's a lot going on from our KEPA program, our Kitsap Eviction Prevention Assistance, to the expansion of our HEART team, which is our Homeless Encampment Action and Response Transition teams. That's a lot of jargon, but essentially we're increasing our outreach to homeless encampments, and also our partnership with local hotels. So there's a lot happening. The biggest thing I want to announce right now is that we're hiring and we really need case managers. And so Marwan's done a great job in the past of kind of going through the actual qualifications, but we, at the most, it's a desire to serve, and we definitely value lived experience. And so we have a lot of programs. There's a lot of openings right now. And I think the biggest thing is that people that want to serve, that want to learn, but also have that past lived experience, we really value that. And so if you're at all interested, please apply. Even if you might not feel like you have the qualifications, you can definitely reach out to Marwan or myself. We're happy to talk with anyone interested. But I think at this point, I would just encourage folks to apply because we need some help. So I think that's a brief introduction. And if you want me to talk about anything specific, Marwan, I can.
Well, I did want to ask you, what are we doing data next week?
I don't know if we have time today.
No, I said next week. Are we going to do it next week? Because there are 5 Wednesdays this month. So we're going to talk about data next week, which is fantastic. Since you have to go, I'll try to get a chance to go over the website and kind of go over where you can find the job details and how to apply. But that is, I think, pretty helpful. Tell everyone what broadcast on Friday and where they can get that and what's in there.
So a big thanks to the G2G2 team, Marwan, Rob, and Keyshawn helped myself and some of our team do a live podcast, but was specifically for agency partners. So it was a live stream. It was last Friday. And G2G2 has done a tremendous job of giving us the kind of the media platform and use of YouTube channel, their YouTube channel, the Conduit. And ooh, thank you. Okay, great. And so what Gather Together Grow Together did is allow us to film, and that's awesome because agency partners throughout Kitsap County that have questions about Kitsap County or Kitsap resources within Kitsap County or working with Kitsap Community Resources can just go to YouTube and watch it. A lot of the trainings we've done in the past have kind of been one-off trainings where you have to be there. It's the webinar. Sometimes we've been able to record that, but that's been a challenge because we don't have all the gear. And so that's why we're so happy to be working with Marwan and Gather Together, Grow Together. And so that's on the YouTube channel right now. It's called Working with Kitsap Community Resources, Training for Agency Partners. And we're really excited and we'll love feedback. We're hoping to do this quarterly as a training for all the different partners in Kitsap County that are working specifically with Housing Solutions Center. Hey, Janelle. Yeah, and then I think, Marwan, you're wanting me to talk about how...
Where they can access it, at kcr.org, and just navigating to the job description.
Okay, let's see.
Hey, Kuye, let me get you a chair. Jewel, let me get you a chair.
Not sure. This is a really fancy interface, Marwan. I'm not sure I know how to use this. So I'm clicking stuff, but nothing seems to be happening.
Find KCR here. Find the KCR tab. Right there. Yeah, you won't be able to see the live.
Oh, but it is going. Okay. Well, really quickly, before I pass it on, if you're interested in applying, you can go to Get Involved, Career Opportunities, and these are all the job opportunities that we have right now. But specifically, the case manager is we call them the Family Development Specialist for housing. So that's where it's at. Thanks, Marwan.
All right. I know that you folks have been here patiently. I drugged these folks here from Kitsap Strong, and Janelle has a long way to go, so I'm gonna have Janelle jump on next. Janelle, you want to let everyone know who you are and what great work you've been doing? And
Okay, sure. So today, my name is Janelle McFeet, and I oversee the Welcome Home program, which is a human dignity model that was actually birthed out of the Port Gamble S'Klallam tribe and continued on to Suquamish. And so this started probably back in 2015, and we had such good success using this human dignity, restorative, trauma-informed care approach to something that usually you wouldn't see in these linear institutionalized models that we have. And so we actually were able to reduce our recidivism by 81% using this model. So thank you. And so that was pretty amazing. And so now we're allowed to expand it to Native and non-Natives coming out of specifically to Kitsap County Jail, but also now we're working with the prison systems. So, so we've had two back-to-back Second Chance Act grants, and we're writing a third one because the idea is that we're hoping to spread this type of model through not just Kitsap County, but state and nationwide would be ideal. So that is, in a nutshell, the work that we do. I mean, it would take a long time to explain all the ins and outs of the program, but I'd be remiss if I didn't talk about our success coaches that both of you know. So we have success coaches. Sorry, I'm taking this off. I'm going to be really vulnerable. I had cancer and a lung removed and a tumor, and so I have to be really careful. So, so if I'm like having, oh no, you're fine.
Just hold the mic.
Oh, hold it up.
I'm losing some words.
Thank you. So our success coaches, I think, are the success of our program, for lack of a better word. So they walk with the participant from pre to post release, and they make sure that they're doing things from a criminogenic risk and needs assessment to really important work, which is relational. So we don't see people really doing relational work and welcoming them back to the community. And yesterday, and I'll end with this, we had a restorative circle. And we work with the person coming out of incarceration, the victim of the crime, family, success coaches, and community. And we sit in a circle because obviously this curriculum is rooted in Native American culture with a talking, we had a feather. And they're able to make amends for the things that they did and that's why we titled it the Welcome Home Program, because after the circle, they get to talk about how they've impacted their family and community. But more importantly, there's a circle there that supports them and we welcome them back. And so that's something that is the core of our program, is relational, restorative, and human dignity. So thank you.
I should have known he was going to put me on the spot. Hello, everyone. My name is Jewel Shepard Sampson. I am the director of Kitsap Black Student Union, and I have worked in the community on various other projects, Living Life Leadership, Our Gyms, Kitsap Strong, and the list can go on and on and on, Erase Coalition. I always say those because I didn't just come from one area. You know, I really, I love the idea of the village, reaching out to help everybody. And now that I'm in the spot that I'm in, I'm able to be the help for the village and have a village behind me supporting. Most of my work is with students and just being able to have resources for them. All of those organizations kind of serve different purposes. And with Kitsap Black Student Union, we're able to bring back cultural awareness, leadership, community service, but also have a strong community advocacy, because none of us are here without our community. So that's what I do in a nutshell. I'm happy to be here. Thank you.
If anyone needs to go, just go ahead and go. You don't have to. You ladies like some juice or coffee?
Okay.
Class started yesterday for you, right?
Hello, everyone. I am Laomi Preciado Lagdameo. I am a candidate for Kitsap County Commissioner District 3. I'm a proud trans woman of color, and I'm here because I myself am a person with lived experience. I work as a certified peer counselor at Kitsap Mental Health, and even though I work there, I do not talk on their behalf, but I know how instrumental it is to feel a sense of connection and community and support. And the reason why I'm running is because for the longest time, we've kept electing leaders that say that they care, but they really don't understand the gravity of the issue. They don't understand the barriers that face some of the intersectionality that some people have. The reason why I decided to run on the very last day was because I looked up to my fellow elected officials and I saw that there were still issues that were still being confronted, that they kept talking about creating plans, creating task force, but never really enacting action. And for me, as a like I said, proud trans woman of color, there's this sense of urgency within me. I know that we have the right moment, the right people, and now the resources that we're seeing through the legislative actions that have been passed the past couple of years, that we are afforded a unique opportunity to reinvest in our community, to really walk the walk when we say we want to have more low affordable income housing. We want to appropriately fund all of our social service programs that do such amazing work within our community, but yet find themselves put down by the limitations of funding, put down by the limitations of having the resources available, so that way staff members who are providing these services can also be taken care of appropriately. Because we can't do this work all by ourselves. It's going to take a whole community. And that's what I'm running for. I'm running to be an example that with a little bit of opportunity, with a little bit of support from the community that we have here in Kitsap County, that success is attainable. And that success is whatever you decide it to be. That your purpose in life is as valid as anyone else's, and that you shouldn't conform yourself to predisposed standards or expectations that keep failing you, that you have an honest God-given duty and an honest God-given right to live the life that you want, to be able to be supported, to be able to go and attain that American dream that we were always taught we could attain. But that is only attainable by being able to be visible and present and being told and showing to the community that we can succeed, that we can persevere, and that if we just took care of one another, just like we take care of our family, because ultimately at the end of the day, we all are family, we can create the community that we deserve and that we need to be. Thank you.
Naomi, I think we have a roundtable discussion after we kind of go through this. I think we will have a really good discussion today based on some of our previous conversations. Go ahead.
Hi, I'm Jeff Wallace. I'm the Kitsap County Coroner right now. I'm also running for the District 3 Commissioner spot. I am running for similar reasons. I think government has created a lot of stumbling stones with the intentions of trying to fix the problem. And we need to have government officials that are happy and willing to provide the stepping stones that are needed and get out of the way and let the folks that are actually doing the work do the work. I ran for for coroner on the platform of actually eliminating the office, because we have grown to the point in the county now where we need a professionally based medical examiner's office. Got that completed. We hired a doctor 2 years ago. She's been working for us phenomenally. The voters approved the transition to that professionally based medical examiner's office last fall. So I'm finishing up my term right now, helping to make sure that we've got all of the appropriate administrative practices in place. We just got through being accredited through the International Association of Coroners and Medical Examiners. So we're an internationally accredited agency that has subjected ourselves to peer review. So we self-initiated that. That is something that we want to be able to show the community that we are providing services that are actually reviewed by peers from around the country and around the world, so that we are providing the best possible services for Kitsap County. And we did that by taking an elected official who knew enough to step out of the way when we had an opportunity to put people in there that are actually doing the work, experiencing the work, to help move us forward. And that's my platform. We need leadership, and we need to know that there are some things that we're not going to fix. But there are people in our community that are experiencing this firsthand. I mean, I met Janelle yesterday on the phone through another contact where we're trying to address the housing issue, homelessness, and a lot of it most of it circles back to inadequate mental health care in our community. And this is, again, something where, as the government, we're supposed to be helping to promote this, but instead we're, I believe unintentionally, but we are putting up barriers. And we need to have the humility and the confidence to be able to appoint the people in our community that are actually experiencing this and doing this to move forward with it. So that's it. Thank you.
Hey, you've been our coroner for a while, correct?
Been in the corner for 3 years. My term is
Gotcha.
Can I ask him a quick question about the corner before we pass on? And then I'm going to hand this off to you in a second. So I took the CERT class with the emergency management department. And I do a lot of work. The Kitsap Resiliency Project, Resilient Ecosystems, does a lot of work around contingency planning and building relationships in neighborhoods. And one of the things they told me there stuck with me. And one of those what really moments. So we know that we have Cascadia Rising on the horizon. And they told me basically that if people die in a disaster, the coroner's office says to leave them where they are and they'll come get them. But when you take on something the scope of Cascadia Rising, where transportation is going to be almost all but eliminated, that makes no sense whatsoever. And if you're training people to be leaders in their neighborhood for dealing with a disaster, I think a statement about, and if transportation is not available and the coroner's obviously not going to be able to get there to take care of the dead bodies, perhaps you should take them out of the way of where the people are living.
Sure. And we've
International
Thanks.
issue, right? Or
Yeah.
national issue.
Right.
We saw that with
And-
9/11 and
It's
Yeah.
funny you bring that up because I was actually working with Liz Kalut on reevaluating and rewriting our mass fatality plan for the county when COVID hit. So that is still in the works,
Okay.
but that is something that will be addressed, will be the appropriate handling of fatalities so that we have an actual workable plan, not something that just looks good on paper.
Excellent. Thank you very much.
Yes. Okuye,
Yes.
will you kind of recap Juneteenth and also talk about?
Can I?
Yeah,
talk a
yeah,
little
yes,
bit
of course
about,
you can.
Before,
Yes.
because I don't want to get off of this because we started back in 2015. They held a big conference at the Admiral Theater about the disaster and public safety, and what we came away with was that we looked around the room and there were no community leaders of color. The only reason why I had any inclination that the county was moving around how to prepare for disasters, how to prepare for emergency, public safety, and all of these issues was that I was a part of the military. But if I wasn't a part of the military, as far as communities of color, you didn't have any of the immigrant populations there, none of the African American leaders. I didn't see anyone in the room. That was a red flag for me because we understand what happened during the disaster with Katrina. That happened back in the day. We knew what happened during the disaster of 9/11. So how do we prepare all of our communities to step into public safety? And what wasn't being done was you were not informing the most vulnerable populations within our communities and our counties with the information of where to go when there's a disaster, what to do if there's an earthquake, what to have, what supplies, and that was very disturbing to me. So I went down to the city, met with, at that time, was Mayor Patty Lynn. And I said, we need to do a 9/11 SOS program that will inform communities of color what to do, where to go, where's the safe houses, all of those things. And that was not even supported very well. That was another red flag for me. How are we breaking down those barriers, building a collective, unified, cohesive plan for all community members, not just a few, but how are we connecting so that every one of our communities have this information? Because it was about how the information was being distributed. We have to go back to foundational principles of who you're connecting with, who you have a relationship with, how are you educating and informing these communities around public safety. And public safety must reach all of us and not just a select few. So that was very That was my learning lesson stepping into that. And I wanted to say it here so that when you're talking about getting a plan to implement how you move things forward in an equitable, healthy way, this is the conversation we need to be having across those barriers. And what kind of initiatives are we doing to break down those barriers and really build a collective, cohesive, collaborative effort to make sure all of our communities are safe during these disasters?
Karen, I wanted to go ahead and piggyback off that.
Yeah.
They did have a training, the county did, last week. They were in training for the disaster, and Doug Washburn did reach out to me, and he's getting information to my office so that we can give out that material. One thing he told us that we need to be prepared with, and you've always been talking about this, I shared with him, that they are going to go ahead and service when a disaster comes. They'll be servicing Seattle first. We are going to be 3 days without service. Without service. So, okay, I'm
That's
just
not 3 days.
okay. Well, he said, I'm sorry. I thought he said 3 days, but thanks for correcting me. But he said they're going to be servicing Seattle first. He just left the training. So we need to get out there and educate. Doug Washburn, he is really trying to reach out to the BIPOC community and organizations to give us those packets so that we can go ahead and reach and educate our people in the community. And so what we need to do is come together and go to a meeting and to that training before we can build triage units
Yes.
in certain areas. You know what I'm saying? And not just one organization be the hub. It's going to take
That's it.
all of us to serve everyone.
Say
There
that.
you go, community. So touch base with Doug Washburn, send him an email, and then let's all get together.
Yes.
And then I want to say, as far as the coroner's position, he's done a damn good job.
Come on.
I just want to say I work a lot. Yeah, I work a lot with his people. And I'm just telling you that he has improved. I remember when he first run, I was working with his wife over there at the Bremerton Airport. Yes. And so, but they have improved. I have to say, we had a lot of individuals that have passed. The coroner's office has been very, very passionate and compassionate with those loved ones in the homes when they come on the sites, and have been communicating with me and helping us to find those loved ones that are out in the street homeless and looking them up. So I wanted to make sure you knew that, we knew that. But I need to ask you this. Did the phones get up? Because the phones were down for a long time.
We're still fighting with IT on that. But I went and got a hold of Verizon, and we put a system in place that we have working right now that's outside of the county IT system. They piggybacked our phone system and the phone system for the sheriff's office, satellite office there, off of an old line. And that system.
Okay, yes, because the phones were down for quite some time. I'm sorry I didn't give you the mic.
Oh, you're good.
But yes, the phones were down, and it was, hard to get in contact with them, and we had to go there back and forth. So I just wanted to make sure, because we do need those communications up there, and the phone lines are very important when we're dealing with the mortuaries at the funeral homes and dealing with the loved ones to get them. So that's my only thing, was the phones were down for a long time.
We have a workable system in place right now.
Okay, thank you,
Can I ask a
thank
follow-up
you.
question to that?
Yes, go ahead.
Is that the same phone system that 9/11 uses?
No,
Because the coroner and 9/11 are right next to each other.
we are. However, we trunked off their main line. So they're on a direct service line, and we're trunked off.
I feel way better now.
So again, that's part of infrastructure.
Can I
Yes.
talk a little bit about
Which we
that
got a lot of
before,
money
because
for
I do
this
have
year,
to leave.
so.
I think it's important that we work in a collective way to address a lot of them. One of the issues that came up during the pandemic was that everyone did not have access to, whether it was services, and then net neutrality is vital to security and to safety. And if you're going to make it about a poverty issue or a different area issue, you have to look at that. Being leaders, and I'm talking about leadership here, and those that are working on infrastructure, that must be priority. If you're not going to make that priority or something that you really need to move forward, we're going to continue to see the disasters that are manifesting during emergencies. Because you didn't level the playing field before the disaster happened. You have to do intervention and prevention. Don't just be reactionary in the way that you address these emergencies. We should have learned something from Katrina. We should have learned something from 9/11. We should learn from our history that we can do things better and move things forward and begin to address some where the disparities are and connect the dots and put some foundational things in place so that when, it's not if they're going to happen, but when they're happening, that we have some type of system that helps us to support and that we can come out, because it's about the loss of life. Because that's what will be, that's the determining factor. The lives that was lost during Katrina could have been prevented. And the lives that was lost during this pandemic could have been prevented as well. So let's go back to the foundation. Let's go back to ground zero. Make it a ground zero initiative of how do you build in proper infrastructure to be able to support. And I say that because I come from a military background, and we know that we have to put in certain infrastructures to support the work that we're doing. Well, the same thing carries over to civilian life as well. So here we are in 2022 going into 2023, and we need to make sure that in Kitsap County, we've put in infrastructures to support the public safety of our citizens here in the county. I don't care what King County is doing. Because I don't live in King County.
Correct.
I live right here in Kitsap County, and I want to know what resources and where do I go when things start popping off here. So with that being said, I'll give it back.
I was just going to say, I serve on the board for Puget Sound Regional Council, and infrastructure bill came out, and a large part of what they do is transportation. But just now in 2022, they're trying to figure out how to measure equity and make sure they're reaching these communities. Well, Kitsap is in this area. Nobody knows anything about Kitsap. Kitsap's not represented. There's 3 people on that board now that, the equity board just started last year, thanks to some people I know. But, the questions that we're asking is, who is reaching out to Kitsap? Who are you asking these questions to? Who's showing up for Kitsap? The reason why Seattle's going to be serviced first is because it's a major hub, right? And so if we don't have people showing up and saying, no, we're over here and we get some of that money too. So it's important. So if you go to, it's Puget Sound Regional Council. If you just Google it, it will show up, but they're planned for until 2050. Just came out, and then there's some strategies on there. They want public comment.
Joel, can you advocate for G2 to be part of the transportation solution? As part of that? That's one of the things that's important to us. And what Okuye was saying is when COVID hit, a lot of our elderly and disabled and folks that were cut off didn't have services.
That's right.
And didn't know what was happening. And so that's kind of where we come in, and we want to be part of that.
Yes. And some of the things that I personally, and Shannon Turner, he's on that board too. Lucretia's on that board as well. We've asked those questions about, okay, this is transportation is the major part of it, but they also deal with housing, resources. Transportation is bigger than we think about, because when a disaster hits, our systems are going to go down. Everything is run off of electronics these days. And so being able to get someone out of a building, you have to have access. We're building up all these homes. Are we making sure that we have access to get to people? You know, I think they estimate Kitsap to grow, and I might be saying this wrong, but it's a crazy number. Like, yes, that's a lot of people.
Say that, Jewel, for the audience.
Oh,
Yes.
how many did you say?
100,000 in the next 5 years.
100,000 in the next 5 years, but that number was actually bigger when you think of, because they're measuring. Yes, they're only measuring like the city. If you live outside of the city, they're not taking your data into consideration. That's another thing.
Yes, I just want to say one thing because I do have to leave for class. One of the things that we've been working on, we worked with that Puget Sound region for a year to lay down infrastructure of what that was going to look like. And we were there advocating with Kitsap E-Race Coalition and saying, we are not represented. Why are we not here? And why aren't these resources being allocated or even addressed within our county? It's vital and it's very important. My name is Akuye Karen Vargas, because I did not introduce myself, but one of the things that we've been working diligently with is our Living Life Leadership, informing and educating and empowering our young people with Kitsap Black Student Union, plus Kitsap E-Race Coalition, which is a coalition over 40 different organizations coming together to unify, to strategize, to look, to vision what it would look like to make our county more equitable. We're talking about equity, race, and community engagement, because we know we cannot do this work without engaging everyone in this community to step into their own health and public safety. So you have to begin to get a vision and a strategy of how you're going to bring families, our young people, our school districts, and our government and align them. You have to do the asset mapping, and you have to do the ally building chart to be able to reach all of the citizens within your community and within your county, because a community is only made up of families. So if you're not engaging your families in this process, we are dropping the ball and you're not connecting the dots. And so I just wanted to say that, but I will pass it on to this gentleman here, and thank you again.
Okay, before the next person speaks, just real quick, I'm monitoring the show in my office. And so what we want to do is we're going to put one mic on the table, which will pick up everybody at the table. And then we'll use the other one for the kind of fringe participants, because some of the information is not getting heard, which is really important stuff. So
to go back to what Akuya was saying, and I couldn't agree more with any of what you're saying. Okay, but I'm going to wait. This one
Yeah,
gets
that'll
up
pick up
for
everything.
everybody.
This is just for the edge people. Yeah.
So I'd like everybody to close their eyes for a minute. I've been working on Cascadia Rising for 5 years now. So I'm going to draw a picture for you. Okay? An earthquake happens and we're on a peninsula. Our only transportation on and off the peninsula are some small roads going south, a bridge through Tacoma Narrows, and a bridge across the Hood Canal, and the ferries. So we're going to have this earthquake. It's going to be bigger than any earthquake you've ever experienced by a lot. A 9 magnitude quake goes for 6 minutes. Okay? We are going to be cut off. We will suddenly be an island. We have 3 days worth of food. We have 300,000 people.
That's what he said, 3 days worth of food.
So we lose all of our communications. We lose all of our ability to get on and off the peninsula. And we're not together. We're all isolated in our own little lives, and we live in our heads. So I want you to picture this, and I want you to think about what the priorities are. immediately for 300,000 people who are now cut off from the rest of the state and from their families and their loved ones. I would personally argue that communication, as Secretary was saying, is probably the most important part, because with 300,000 people panicking and separated, getting back in touch is probably going to be one of the first things that you're going to want to do. But without power, without cell towers, even with cell towers that have generators, we're going to be without it. There are solutions out there, but they have to be brought forward, and people have to bring their willpower together, all of us together, to make those changes. And with what Akuye was saying, and I absolutely agree, is we have to come together and create that willpower. And which is why the Kitsap Resiliency Project is doing one neighborhood at a time, to create community ambassadors from the neighborhoods, to bring a grassroots network together, to set those priorities, to have those discussions, because it's the fastest way we can think of to get people in the conversation. So think about that. Think about what it's like being cut off with no way to get food, with no way to get on and off, and your cell phones aren't working now. Your computers aren't connected now. What can we do? It's time to get inventive. And it's time to start looking at a future for humanity, not what we've done before. We have to start looking at solutions that exist today that we aren't implementing.
This particular project, do you guys also reach out to the Suquamish and Port Campbell Squamish tribes to make sure they're included?
As a matter of fact, I've reached out to the Squamish several times. My contacts there are not my problem kind of feeling to it, but I am actually presenting to the Suquamish Advisory Council on connecting neighborhoods on the 7th of July.
Okay. I work for the Port Campbell Squamish tribe, and I'm a Jamestown Squamish tribal member.
I'd love to talk to them. I know almost nothing about the Squam tribe, though. It's mostly about it's mostly about time, and my time to go make relationships.
Yeah.
And I'd love to have conversations.
And I'd like to piggyback on yours.
Okay.
As far as building the infrastructure, one of the big stumbling stones in infrastructure, especially anything that's been directed by the government, is we build it for the problem that we have now.
Or the problem we exist before.
So yes,
Yeah.
and I compare it to the Highway 16 interchange with I-5. When it is finally completed, it will handle the traffic flows that they had 20 years ago when they started the project. It's already too small. There was no foresight, no vision. We need to be planning for a county that has close to 500,000 people in it, and start building our infrastructure now to accommodate that. Is it going to happen in large bursts? No. But if we keep building for what we have now, we will always be behind. So we need to start concentrating where we have our concentrations of population and beef up that infrastructure so that we can accommodate the most number of people if this does happen before we have the infrastructure to support it.
And we as people in Kitsap County and citizens here need to demand more, which is why we have projects like Food for All, Power for All, Housing for All, Water for All, because we don't know what the water tables in Kitsap County are doing. I will tell you that from the Squamish tribe. They're terrified of that. KPD is terrified of the fact that nobody knows what the water tables are doing. We have 80 some odd water districts in Kitsap County, all with their little fiefdom, but they're not talking together. We as the people of Kitsap County have to come together, have to educate ourselves, and have to make some decisions and set priorities and demand more. I talked to a politician in Kitsap County recently, and I asked this question. I said, so how many people per month do you have come into your office and have an ask for something that might be a very vital need and that you can't do much about? And the answer was, I need an accountant to figure out that number. I said, so what happens if 1,000 people are represented coming in asking for something? They would have my attention. We need to come together. When we have 300,000 people on a peninsula that's cut off, it doesn't really matter what color, gender, or anything else you are. We're in it together, all of us. We're all going to be figuring out how to survive. Wouldn't it be nice if we somehow had an idea how to work together beforehand?
Mm-hmm.
Well, I think the biggest thing when we talk about infrastructure too is that we put an emphasis on public transportation. We are a rural county, and that's what a lot of people don't recognize is that we have the opportunity of growth, but we're still mitigating and pushing the people who are already the most vulnerable out of the equation. That's why we need elected officials that know this through their own personal experience on what to look for, because that's what happens every single time that community tries to go to an elected official and present these solutions, and the elected official just isn't open or doesn't understand where this solution is coming from. We need to be able to have elected officials that are able to see and have an open mind on what is possible, because what we've been doing for the past couple of years, past couple of decades is not working. And we're seeing the ramifications of this right now through inequality, and COVID shows us what government is capable of doing if it actually cares. When resources are adequately put to the communities that really do need them, we start to see all of these innovative projects that are for the benefit of the whole community. If we start to recognize that we are only as strong as our weakest link, that's how we're going to get ahead and move forward. Because we're not going to move forward with only a subset of people keep making the decisions, keep making the choices that only impact and influence them, because that's their only purview and experience that they have in life. This is why these conversations are so important, so that way we can empower our community. Because I don't feel empowered before this. As a young person, I never felt empowered until I started putting myself in situations where I was like, you know what, my community needs this service. Where's the funding coming from? But it's not fair for our communities of color to keep advocating over and over again, and for elected officials to keep asking us to empty our cups when they have the solutions that we've been telling them over and over again. And if they took just 1 second to look at it and see, you know what, let me swallow my pride. You're right. This might not help my community right now, but it's going to help your community. And in the end, it's going to help everyone, because everyone's going to start from the same place. So that's why when I say that we have a unique opportunity right now, it's because we do have the funding available. And it's going to take for us to step up to the plate when time is asking us to be innovative. We are at a crossroads. And if we keep moving forward with only a certain amount of people, because again, they have good intentions, but those intentions are not matching up with the impact that it's having for the most vulnerable of our community. And that's why lived experience is so important now. It's not just your education that you come from, but it's where you draw your experiences, and how does that influence your perception of how can you create solutions that benefit everyone.
Absolutely. My father used to have a saying, and I'm finding myself quoting my father recently, and I don't know if that's a good trend or a bad, but he used to say that the road to hell is paved with good intentions. It's time to roll up our sleeves and get beyond intentions to actually action. I did want to draw one thing that most people don't even know about. When Fukushima happened, and we've talked about Sandy and Katrina, when Fukushima happened, it was an equivalent to what Cascadia is going to do. It wiped out a nuclear power plant in Japan, and the outshoot of that is that Germany voted to go off of nuclear. And since 2011 when that happened, Germany has shut down 80% of their nuclear power plants, and they've only got 6 left. They will shut down 4 of them this year. They will shut down 4 of them this year, and the two that will remain open share borders with other countries and provide baseline power for those countries. They have replaced the nuclear power with renewable energy, an enormous investment in renewable energy, and they've rethought how energy delivery is happening. We all have experienced power bills going up and down depending on our use of power in what is now an almost all electric community. So in Germany, you pay a flat fee for the infrastructure, and the utility puts solar panels on your roof, wind turbines on your roads. And they are running 65 to 70% of their country off of renewable energy alone. But if you ask PSE, a for-profit utility, they'll tell you that renewable energy is still too immature. And let me remind you that Germany is the country that makes Mercedes and BMW and some of the most reliable high-tech vehicles in the world. But it's too immature for the US. We need to rethink our infrastructure. There are technologies out there that are far better than what we're using. but we have to be willing to use them. And the only way that's going to happen is if people come together and say, we want more. We want security. We want a foundation that we can build on. Everyone can build on.
I wanted to ask Mr. Wallace.
Sorry, I'm taking care of something from work right now.
Oh, okay. Go
I
ahead.
apologize.
No, go ahead.
You can still ask the question. I'm
Somebody-
taking care of
somebody-
someone that we thought was indigent and we found a sister.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. I
Go
was
ahead.
going to make a dead person joke about taking care of somebody.
My thing, this is what I wanted to say to him. My thing is that we have all these politicians running for office. And my fear is they get into the office and do business as usual. You know, this young lady right here had a lot of important things that she was expressing that we needed to hear, listen, and embrace. So my thing is that what you're getting, if you get into office, are you going to continue to do business as usual? Because you said they need to hear us. I brought a group of family members over to the commissioner's office. They were having a meeting, and you know, when the public can come, they were so upset that we brought those over. We had one commissioner tell my people, because I got there not late, but I told everybody to be over there early because of CP time. You know, so anyway, they were all outside. And I said, why are you guys outside? Oh, one of the commissioners told them that you're at the wrong meeting, that they weren't supposed to be there. So they were outside. So when I came in, I saw that commissioner. They said it was him right there. So I saw that commissioner. I said, what do you mean we're at the wrong meeting? They have an open section in this that we can speak and be heard, you know? So anyway, and you told them they were at the wrong meeting. So long story short, we were able, you know, we went in because I wasn't leaving. And so we went in, they got to speak at the end, but their voices weren't heard. Some people were crying, homeowners, pouring their hearts out, but they weren't listening and didn't hear. They just went through the formality. You know what I'm saying? My thing is, you're coming in the office. Are you going to go in there doing business as usual and follow the same pattern?
And actions speak louder than words, right?
Correct.
And I already went in and totally interrupted business as
Mm-hmm.
and that's how we get things done. That's how we move things forward. Business as usual at the office. You know, the coroner's office isn't the sexy place to spend money. Okay, and I don't think anybody here is going to disagree with that.
Neither is emergency management, by the way.
Right, but it's a little bit more sexy than trying
Yeah.
to spend it at the coroner's office. But there's still things that we have to do. Correct. And business as usual there had always been to have an administration. They had two dedicated administrators for an office of 8 other employees. So, but we had an x-ray machine that was working, is a loose term, on Windows 7. None of the cameras worked, internally or externally. We had no visual security on the building. Carpets hadn't been cleaned since it got built in 2009. And there's a huge list of things. So all those things require money, right? We're not the sexy place to spend money. So we eliminated that extra administrative position, and we used that money to go direct to digital with our x-ray machine. It's running on Windows 10 now. When they went to put the file from the x-ray machine into the paper reports, they took a picture of it with the digital camera and printed it out and put it in the report. It's 2019, for goodness sake. You know, so it takes looking at things from a whole new perspective. And do we have what we need, or do we have what we want? And we had some redundancies built in there that, personal opinion, added plausible deniability, rather than taking care of the mission of the office.
Well, I'm sorry. I just want to make sure we stay on task on what I'm trying to get across and what I want to hear. My thing is getting in there. I looked at that budget that the county had and all the grants, and they gave the same monies to the same organizations, which those organizations aren't down here with the other organizations that are using the work. They're using, the organizations are down here using their numbers to go ahead and get those bigger fundings, but they're not funding the little small guy. They're funding the big guys who don't even have that connection. That's why I was at a meeting with Kitsap Strong. Today we all were, several of us were. And I think that's the big problem, doing business as usual or the good old boy club.
Agreed.
That needs to be,
and that goes across the board.
get correct.
I mean, we're using 60-year-old, 70-year-old technology for wastewater. We just spent $60 million a few years ago to bring Brownsville up to where they're, I think, a third better than they were before on technology was outdated 30, 40, 50 years ago. And so all the way across the board, whether it's funding organizations, whether it's our infrastructure, we're doing things, as you said, Clausewitz, and I'm not sure if this was Clausewitz or not, said we always prepare for the next war based on the last war, which was fine when we were preparing for the Civil War based on the Napoleonic Wars. It didn't work. But that's the way government thinks. We're always preparing for what happened 20, 30, 40 years ago. And that's not taking care of people. Whether it's funding, whether it's thinking relationships, whether it's infrastructure, whether it's any part of it, we need to change that. And the only way that's going to change is if people come together and say that, because the first three words, and Marwan's not here to say this, first three words of the Constitution, we the people. But we the people abdicate to our leadership to do these things. The leadership needs to hear from us.
Yes.
And so we have to find a way to come together and raise our voices together. And that's
Correct.
really the only way any of it's going to change.
Correct. My thing is, can I just say this? We, like you said, working on something that happened in the past. I went around last week because as I was having this conversation with Mr. Doug Washburn, I saved it with some of my friends in the community. And we always talk about, man, when we were little, remember the bomb shelters that we have? I go, has anybody looked and see what's within them? Are they still located? I drove around. I just still saw one, but I don't see the entrance anymore where they changed it and covered up, but they still have the oxygen to go in them. That's over off of not Halverson, Olympus, the one that's over there. I couldn't find the one that's in the Navy Yard City where the car lots are. That one used to be down there somewhere, Pendergrass or up in that area. I'll just say that. So I couldn't find the rest of them that my mom and them guys used to drive us around the cars and tell us this is where you're supposed to go. But then, like I said, the one was covered up, the opening to the one that's on the east side off of Olympus. So like you said, we still plan for back then instead of planning for today and the future. But I still wonder, has anybody looked into that? What's going on with those shelters?
We had that conversation in CERT training. And if Doug Washburn didn't mention it, I think they've just restarted CERT training again after they figured COVID closed it down for a couple of years. But CERT training is where the Department of Emergency Management trains citizens to be leaders in their neighborhood. And I've heard that they've done a great job of upgrading it. But we had that discussion. I think all of the shelters but one are essentially empty and closed down now. And I don't remember where that one is, but I think it's in downtown Bremerton over by the city hall somewhere. But essentially they were written off as an expense that nobody could afford. And they just kind of quietly closed them all down.
Next question.
Do you need the mic?
No.
Okay.
Speak loudly.
Okay, I will speak up, Mr. Mark. So I may have missed this, but to the candidates, are you guys all running for the same position or different districts? Can you explain that?
Just to make sure that people online know, you guys are running for the position.
Oh, I didn't know you were running.
I'm
I
not
missed
running
that.
for anything.
Yeah. So, yeah, Laomi and I are both running for the same position.
I'm just hanging out. So I'm just, yeah. So I oversee the Welcome Home program, which is a reentry human dignity model. And I actually can lend some there's some parallels about the movement that we had in trying to turn the culture of corrections and working with our local commissioners and Doug Washburn and Ed Wolf and Rob Gelder and Commissioner Garrido, and having conversations about and just never giving up, because this started about 8 years ago when we introduced this idea and people laughed at us saying, there is no way that you are going to have this type of system sit in these kind of institutionalized linear models that are very punitive. And I said, no. I was like, no. And so we kept having these conversations with the chief and now Chief Sapp and continuing to bring people to the table. How do you do that? Well, you need a strategic plan. You need a SWOT analysis. You need to figure out who are the players, who are the leaders in the community, and also to have people that have had lived experience at the table. And so yes, this is a little bit different, but there's parallels there on movements. And so we're considered now national best practice for the work that we do. We have a task force that meets regularly, which I'd love to have you guys join. But it takes time. It's like turning a Queen Mary. It's like, but you have to stick with it and know that there's the greater good is going to come out of this. And we're seeing that in Kitsap, and hopefully, and as I said, we reduced our recidivism rate by 81%. That's pretty high. You don't usually see that when you actually take a look at each other. And one of the things we do, and I have to go, so I'll end with this, is that we put on community listening circles. It's really hard to hate somebody you know. And so I'm a restorative circle practitioner, and we've been putting on these community listening circles that bring law enforcement to the table, justice involved, BIPOC community, tribal members, and we talk about, start to get to know each other, and then we can talk about what does systemic racism look like in the justice system? What, ask the tougher questions, right? This took 10 years, and we're finally seeing change. I'm passionate about this because it can work, and people frown or laugh at innovation when it's too far out to think. One of the things that I would suggest, people love pilot projects. People love the word pilot. And so, so that's something that we said, hey, let's do a pilot project with the jail. Let's try to figure out ways to introduce this. It's a lot of media, a lot of, we have support from Senator Patty Murray to Congressman Kilmer. We'll attend our listening circles. It's getting people at the top, leaders at the top that will say, we'll invest in it, because to your point, sorry, I'm really passionate about this because I get angry. I get angry that we have people that will do exactly what you're talking about. They're going to sit in the position. They want to continue to be in that position. So they have to hold their ground. So they sit vanilla. Right. And we can't have that. Representative Tara Simmons works closely with her, people that will be able to have the courage to stand up. That sounds so cliche because everybody says that shit. Sorry.
No, that's all right. I'm transparent.
But you don't get reelected by standing up.
Right. And so and that's the, and if you are elected on a certain platform and you don't get reelected and you have enough courage to say, hey, I did this and I'm not going to fall prey to this, but it takes a whole movement in the whole county. And we did that completely different from what you guys are doing, but in the incarceration correctional facilities. So things have to start changing, and it's just like this never give up attitude, just keep going. And relationship building. It's hard to say, no, I don't agree. You can disagree with people, but when you can't see them as a human being, you can see them. I'm seeing you right now. I'm seeing you and I'm hearing you. Yes. And that's what we've lost. We're completely disconnected.
Yeah, we're like this all the time.
Yeah.
I know you have to go, but there is something I want to say about our conversation yesterday. You brought up one term that totally inspires me anytime someone brings it up. I'm a systems builder. Yeah. We're not looking for a fix. We're looking for a system that's going to work. And you're building a system that's working. We need to have people in positions of leadership that can recognize they don't necessarily need to be the ones building the system. They need to recognize the people that can build the systems and be successful with that and support.
Absolutely. And I just wanted to make one quick note on this.
She's been waiting.
And I've been thinking about it all the way through since you first talked. I'm old enough to remember the Vietnam War and the vets coming back. And my friends who came back from tours, and one particular one who had 4 tours in Vietnam, and the welcome home that they got. And I'm thinking, here we are so many decades later, and we're just now starting to pay attention to the fact that we have to welcome people back and help them reintegrate. I'm so happy. I mean, I had that comparison going through my head since you first started talking. I'm going, wow, what would it have been like in the 60s and 70s if we'd actually welcome people back and help them reintegrate?
So a couple of things. I would like a little bit more information on your project. Before you leave, you can just kind of like write your website down or whatever.
Yes, I want
So I can kind of look into that a little bit more. I love the premise and would definitely like to find out more information. To our 2 candidates, all right? So I'm a pastor, all right? And I look at politics a little bit different. And I feel like politics, he knows I don't like to be put on the spot. Anyway, I know. I look at politics a little bit different. I think our politics in America is very divisive, and it seems like it has to be this battleground, which I don't really, kind of subscribe to. So I'm wondering if the 2 of you would have something that about the other candidate's platform that you would agree with and endorse about one another. Like, instead of like kind of nitpicking, like, can we do the reverse and say like, hey, I kind of agree with this person's point of view here, and kind of do things a little bit differently.
Well, yeah, actually, thank you so much for your question. If you read the voters pamphlet that will be coming out relatively soon, that's one of the things that I stated, is that pointing fingers never solved any issue. Right? And for me, it's more so in the sense of urgency, in the sense of life. I'm not here to look for barriers. I'm here to look for assisters and supporters and people who believe that we can do the best thing that we can for our neighbors.
Yeah.
So for me, it's not even about any other candidate in this race. It's about my community. My community needs me right here and right now. And the reason why I'm stating that is because, going back to your point, I actually had a conversation with the commissioner before. We were talking about the experiences with homelessness. As a trans woman of color, I experienced homelessness here in Kitsap County.
Me too.
And I know that my privilege is that I am educated and I am passable. My good looks have gotten me far, and I know that, right? And I know that because of that, I was able to tap into some resources within the county that other people are not privy to. That other people can never tap into because they don't feel empowered or because they don't have the technology. A lot of the programs now that people are being asked to tap into require them to have an email address, require them to have a computer. Yes. When they are out in the street trying to live and survive, that is the least of a concern. So when I was talking to the commissioner about homelessness, and they're like, well, what do you think about the HEART program? I was like, the intention is good, but the impact is horrible because you are still bastardizing a program that was evidence-based, that is, housing is a human right.
Yes.
Housing is a human right. And I am more than happy to say that out loud. Housing is a human right. You can't think about anything else unless you have a house. What is affordable to you might not be affordable to me.
Amen.
Right? So when we're thinking about these programs that are enacted, again, yes, a person might have a good intent, but if it's still not within the comfort level, will the impact actually match up with the intent of the program? And that's why I'm running, because I understand that, yes, the letter is important, but so is too the action. And so is too being proactive in these situations. And so is honoring the experiences of people who have overcome situations and who have become successful on their own terms. That is what we need here now. That is what we need to bring, is that humanity, that every person is worth some. And that we should be here to support them in whatever endeavor they have, and not become the barriers that a lot of times all of us experience. And I'm so grateful and filled with love and so much support from all of y'all, because I feel that here. We all have that sense of urgency, the sense of doing something right. But we need to start picking the people that are actually going to do the walk instead of just doing the talk.
That's right.
I'm not here for the politically expedient. I'm here for my community. I'm here to do what's right.
Yeah, the people, yeah.
Amen. Amen. So to your point, one of the things last night I was watching the show, but so new data has come out that says that there's not one single county in America where a person making minimum wage can afford a medium home to rent a medium size home. Like you were saying, housing does need to be a right. Our state has, outlawed what is it, rent stabilization and rent control. We can't, implement that. Rent has increased by 15% within the last year alone in the Seattle area, and that usually reflects here in for Kitsap as well. We see how the rents are just going up and up and up. We're on the brink of a very massive housing catastrophe that is about to hit the nation with all the housing projects that we see being erected throughout the county. Most of these are not affordable housing. And so people are literally not able to afford the rent. The rent has increased more than the wages. And so how do you guys, both of you guys, how do you plan on addressing that in your position? Like, what do you plan on, doing if you are elected to, and I know you're only one person and, you're not super, men and women that can.
Since I'm supposed to be the moderator here, that's an awesome question. I want to hear both of them give answers. But Jeff gets to answer the question about what he likes about the other person before we get into that question.
Oh, my brain gets going. I'm sorry, Jeff. I'm sorry.
Go and raise your hand.
Yeah, I'm sorry. Thank you, Mark. But that's my next question after Jeff.
Sure, it's on the table. But yeah.
No, I agree with Naomi's position on housing being a basic right and us needing to take care of our community through housing. Everybody needs a place to stay. And we've taken care of that right now by criminalizing those that don't, instead of working towards solutions to find places where they do. And that needs to be a community-based solution. That is not something that government is going to fix on its own. And that is something where everybody in this room, everybody watching, everybody in our community has a part to play in that. So that is, she wins. I definitely back her play on that. I will do absolutely anything I can to help support that.
Okay. So moving into, and thank you both of you guys for, kind of playing nice with each other. Yeah, well, you know what? I wouldn't live in Kitsap if it wasn't full of nice people. I learned that a long time ago. There's wonderful people here.
I want to talk to that just a little bit if I can. Politics are extremely divisive. I ran nonpartisan in a partisan race and won. Many of the folks that have been involved in Kitsap politics says that's the only time they can ever remember, but I ran on the platform of eliminating the position because it doesn't fit the needs of our community anymore. And Naomi's running right now because she sees a way to bring an impact to her community that's not politically based. Huge. We're bold.
Yeah.
That's where we're at.
Yeah.
Neither one of us are politicians. I had one of our sitting commissioners at our indigent burial ceremony last summer looked up to me and went, "You're probably the worst politician I've ever met." And I looked over and I said, "That's probably the nicest thing you've ever said to me."
Thank you. Yeah.
So I think we're coming at that from a very similar viewpoint.
Yeah, and the thing is that, again, this is a tenet of giving the person the benefit of the doubt. I know that Jeff is coming in with good intentions, and I know that his perspective is based on his experience. Neither one is right or wrong, right? There is such a area of grayness that all of us inhabit. That this is what needs to happen, is being able to advocate for our communities. And I am able to advocate for the Filipino, Mexican, LGBT community because I inhabit those intersectionalities. And that is the future. We know that 26% of youth are starting to identify as non-binary or trans or LGBT. We know that 49.1% of kids that are being born now are mixed, multiracial.
They sure are.
We know that 21% come from an immigrant family background. So we can't look at these issues and try to create a one size fits all, because intersectionality shows us that there's different barriers for different identities that you inhabit. And that's what I'm trying to bring to the table, is that recognition that one size is not going to fit all. That as every person is unique, we need to be flexible and unique in our responses and being proactive, not reactive, because that's how the disparities and the inequality starts to gain traction and gets out of hand. Is when we start to just minimize the severity of the issues, which COVID has shown us that these issues have been going on for 400 plus years and they're not getting better. So why try to mitigate and try to push it off to the side and believe that it's not there? It's there. And that's why it's important that young people like myself start to rise up to the occasion and say, you know what, our needs are different from other people's needs, and yet I still understand. As a certified peer counselor, I work with a lot of people who experience homelessness, who experience mental health issues, substance use, and who are elderly that have limited income on SSDI. How are they supposed to make a living getting only $600 every month, right? Rent right now is $1,600. I was a property manager for 117 apartment complex. And for me, I just felt sick, being a person who was like, I need a house, I need a place. And the barriers being, you need to make 3 times the amount of rent.
Yeah.
When there aren't any wages that are being increased, when there isn't any public transportation that runs on Sunday that allows them to have that economic opportunity for them to increase and get to where they want to be, when they don't have the services available to them, whether it be mental health or substance use, because they don't have culturally competent people and staff to be able to meet them at what they're at, meet them where they're at, and to first and foremost, like our other guest was saying, to recognize and respect their humanity. So for me, when thinking about looking at and overcoming the experience of homelessness, it's recognizing that it's going to take building shelters, temporary housing, transitionary housing. It's going to take looking at our zoning laws, looking at how we're able to build more housing in the limited amount of space that we currently have due to the loss that we have. It's about incentivizing companies to actually keep affordable income housing. Is to make sure that when people are first-time buyers and they're working so hard for the American dream, that they actually have the capacity and the programs to support them in that. Because again, our community is only as strong as our weakest link. Our community is only as strong as our weakest link, and that's what I think we need to provide. Yes, we can have a safer environment and neighborhood, right? But it's also going to take our courage to be able to say, you know what, the way that things have been done right now is not correct, right? And that's what I'm talking about when I had that conversation with the commissioner. They're like, well, the HEART program does such a great thing. They go to homeless encampments and they try to connect them up with services. I'm like, yes, but you're putting barriers up because you're asking them to be substance use free, to have their other medical stuff taken care of. And that's the one thing that people are not going to be doing when, again, housing is the main concern. So that's the way that we need to encounter and look into the experience of homelessness, is being able to create low income affordable housing, and to have those companies and construction that come in with all of these low affordable income housing plans, keeping them accountable
Instead of them being like, oh, well, it's too expensive now, they're not going to go market rate.
So, we do, I'm sorry, go ahead.
I can do it. Okay. Short question. How many nonprofit organizations exist in Kitsap County?
Mm.
I would say, to be honest, I wouldn't know the particular number because all of the things that I've been doing have been nationally. So all of the boards and committees that I've been a part of, the National Alliance to End Homelessness, have been towards getting us funding through the McKinley Mental Act to be able to appropriately fund mental health services and affordable housing for people that are experiencing mental health. So just like you were saying, going out into the nation, going out to the state and advocating for us because no one really is advocating for Kitsap County and receiving the appropriate funding that it needs. It gets overlooked. So that's, I would say over 100.
Well, yeah, I know there's more than 100. I believe there's around 400. That's better. Yes.
One thing you said, and I just want to make a comment on this particular thing. I heard you mention safety, and I just wanted to say, just for the record, that safety, I believe safety is a byproduct of opportunity. And so where there's opportunity, we see less crime and, just safety. You can leave your doors unlocked because, people aren't, coveting what you have. So yeah, if there's more opportunity, there's more safety. So Jeff, you're a man of few words. How do you address, how do you address housing in Kitsap County? We see a lot of, like I said, a lot of these, a lot of companies coming in and they're building up these houses and apartment units and things or whatever. How do you address affordable housing? These houses that are with the houses that we see coming into the market being tailored towards the more. There we go. I was trying to be polite about it, but yeah.
And that's one of those things that is what it is. They are going to, and the market drives that. What we need to do, my humble opinion, is put the builders on the spot. We as in Kitsap County, have areas of subsidized housing right now that are on extremely desirable pieces of real estate. We need to put the builders on the spot that want those extremely desirable pieces of real estate. You need to build us 500 affordable housing units, and you're going to trade us those 500 affordable housing units for the 150 that we have on the Silverdale waterfront. We can take that property then, and we can utilize that to have a meeting place for services and housing where we can bring everything together. So, and it's a piece of property I'm thinking about is still in private hands. Of course, it's up off of Greaves Way, but there is a transportation corridor there. They're already building 500 apartment units there right now. So the infrastructure is being put in, but don't make, we're going to let you have this piece of property if you'll build this. No, you build it first. We've played nice for a long, long time. We'll put it in writing. We'll put it down on paper, but you have to meet the burden this time. And then we do need to examine our urban growth areas very comprehensively, and we need to open up the ability for folks to put auxiliary dwelling units on their property. That helps with two issues. It gives an affordable place for someone to rent, and it provides that property owner with the ability to bring in some extra income to be able to afford to be a property owner.
So just a follow-up question here, because we're seeing a lot of investment corporations, getting into the apartment housing market, right? And then they're bundling all these leases and selling them off as, assets or whatever, right? My thing is, and what I'm concerned about for Kitsap, because I've been here like over 20 years and I've seen a lot of change over these years. And I'm seeing a lot of housing go up, a lot of apartments, a lot of housing communities go up. And I'm not seeing any infrastructure. I'm not seeing any new businesses coming into the community. And so what I worry about is all of these people living here, but then they're going and working somewhere else, and those tax dollars are being spent somewhere else, because this is just pretty much a place to lay their heads at. How do we equalize things? Because right now I see a very uneven playing field. There's more housing and there's not any new a lot of jobs being created or new businesses being brought into the area. How do we, kind of stem, some of these affluent housings being built, and then like, hey, let's address, making our city and our not well, I live in Bremerton, but our city and our county as a whole, beautify it like we see some of the other areas like Gig Harbor and so forth, make them begin to look more appealing and bring in, the companies that's going to bring the jobs into the county as well, because, I'm worried about that.
Me too. And I think part of that is for government to get its sticky little fingers out of it. Give incentives for businesses to come in by having them provide directly back. We're going to go ahead and we'll waive your impact fees, but you're going to need to widen this much of the road to impact your business. We'll waive your impact fees if you will put up a beautified corridor, in your business district. There are some simple ways to work around that where that business actually gets to see the benefit of their dollar, and they actually are providing impact improvement to the community without running through the middleman, which is the government. Yes.
Could you explain again the?
I got you. I was holding it for you.
Could you explain again the idea you have about exchanging shoreline for affordable housing? I didn't get that. Don't understand it.
So there's developable property right now that can be zoned for multifamily housing. We have the subsidized housing for the Silverdale area right now is along the waterfront down in Old Town. We don't need to have our subsidized housing on prime real estate if we can trade that prime real estate for a number of affordable housing units that's less than a mile away that will actually meet the needs of the community.
So you're telling me those people because I have clients down there.
Yeah.
So in other words, you're saying to displace those people, let's sell that and build something somewhere else?
No, that's not what I'm saying.
Okay, I'm just checking because I'm very an advocate for my people.
Definitely. No, what I'm saying is
Trade property for property.
Property for property. That developer actually has, in order to gain that golden fleece, if you will, that waterfront property, they have to put up front with dwelling units that actually meet code and provide the services that we need to exchange for that. So rather than having 3 subpar housing units that we have down there right now, we would have one very nice custom built area for all of those people plus more to have housing that we could exchange for that property down in Silverdale.
How do you convince your fellow commissioners to go along with your plans, both of you? I mean, you both have excellent ideas. How do you convince the rest of, the commission board to say like, yeah, let's get on board with that? Because, again, you're only one person, you can't, it's not a fiefdom. You can't just kind of do what you want to do. So yeah, where does that come in at, and what does that look like? Because we are really, I mean, y'all see Congress, and and that's it just trickles down, and it's all the way down to the local level, and this is really where the power is, the local level. But it's just like that, and I am so tired of that trudge where like half the time I would be willing to say, you know what, 6 months out of the year, we're gonna have like, one person just like makes the decisions and just get some good stuff done. But yeah, how do you convince the rest of your fellow commissioners to go along with your ideas?
I want to give some historical perspective here because I'm pretty sure most people in this room don't remember this. But there was a time in Kitsap County about 15 years ago where there were 2 Republicans and a Democrat on the county commissioner board. And things got done, and good things got done because they talked to each other. And there was a political entity in the county that was so fed up with things not being done the way that they wanted them done, but being done for the people, that they rigged an election to get rid of one of the commissioners, which backfired horribly on them. But it was interesting to note that it's not unusual for the commissioners to work together. Matter of fact, that was the norm until probably about 5-10 years ago.
And I've already worked successfully with the other 2. Eliminating a political position is not necessarily popular amongst politicians. So we did navigate that, but part of the bigger plan is Kitsap County has grown out of being able to be effectively governed by a constitutional county as a subdivision of the state. It is time for us to elect a board of freemen and get a county charter put in place and expand that county commission from 3 to 5 and make it nonpartisan.
And
That's not going to happen. I know because I tried that before with another group.
I know
and
it's
it didn't
been
work.
tried before.
Past performance does not show future action. Depends on how
The
much
question
back-
I have is, can you expand upon what you meant by subsidized housing on the shorelines?
Yes.
We have,
I think I know where they're getting confused.
okay,
Okay, so we're not talking about people in subsidized housing. They're talking about property value versus property value. There's property on the Silverdale shoreline that could be developed. Correct me if I'm wrong. And developers want that, and they've been playing games to try and get it and promising things that they weren't delivering, if I heard this correctly. So what they're saying is what we're going to do is make them actually build subsidized housing about a mile away before we give them access to being able to develop the shoreline downtown. So we're talking property versus property, not people in housing.
Okay.
Does that make sense?
We both said okay.
And so so we had 3 commissioners,
Who's
2 is a
surfing?
majority, and it's not being done.
Repeat that again, sir.
I said we have 3 commissioners, 2 is a majority, and what you're proposing has not been done.
I don't think it's even been explored.
No, this gets more snafus and
Yeah.
FUBARs all the time.
Just a moment. I'm in the middle of a podcast. I'm
We
sorry.
need
Yeah.
change over there. We don't
Yeah.
need the good old boy club and none of that. There's so many things that we need to start addressing. The county has received so many millions of dollars, and from off the backs of people of color using the small agencies to get their numbers and then throwing them away. But after they receive this money, oh, we don't need you no more. We got what we needed and we can use your number. So they're taking other monies. Look at, and I'm sorry, I'm very passionate about this. Look at the mission, the rescue mission. And I just think that was wasn't equitable transaction what they did with those funds for those people. And it looks like right now they're in a concentration camp. You
That's what they
know,
were looking like, excuse me,
go ahead.
but that's what they were looking like before. Because I drove down there one day, or one evening, and that was a third world country.
It was, that's what we said. That is the truth.
And so I sent that information to the mayor.
Mm-hmm.
And the next thing I know is the rescue mission is boarded up. It's boarded up.
Have you seen they're at the Quality Inn now and see the fence there?
Mhm.
It looks like a concentrate. I can't say the word.
Concentration
camp. Yeah, it looks like that. They got a security guard. You know, one
Mhm.
guy was murdered, beat to death out there. I mean, yes. I mean, they took to get in there 1.4 million. We all read that in the paper. Then they had to go back and add more money. Now the man, I know him personally, the owner, is upset because he didn't know they was going to turn his place into something like that. You know what I'm saying? Yes. So I'm just saying we got this money and I think we're making bad choices, putting it in the wrong areas. And we keep giving it to the same people that aren't doing the work. You know, their numbers look good because they didn't use the people down here to get those numbers.
Can I say something to that?
Just to give some context, the building downtown that you're referring to, you know, there was some mismanagement from how I understand it, funding that was coming through, and they never ended up getting it fixed. So it got to the point where leadership was saying, we're not going to continue to support. So when COVID hit, it was like, well, where are we going to put these people because it's closed down? That's where the motels came into place. And it was this mad dash to get them put somewhere. And so they ended up in the Midway. And then from the Midway, they ended up at the Quality Inn on Kitsap Way. And there's fencing and there's security guards. And that's why it looks like a concentration camp. One of the things, they have a new executive director now. And I haven't had a conversation with her to see, you know, what they're doing and how their policies have changed, right? So hopefully internally things are changing. But one of their thought processes were, well, you know what? We don't want TVs in the room. We don't want this in their room. They were like taking all the dignity away from them.
Their dignity.
And saying, well, you know, we just want to give them a space to lay, but if it's not too comfortable, then they'll want to change their situation faster. And it's like, okay, that doesn't make any sense to me, right? So it's so comfortable. I just want to stay in here, you know, in a room where I'm on the floor with two other people that I don't know or whatever the case may be. So if you make the conditions where people need respite, you know, people need a space where they can recover and then start that long journey of whatever they need to work on for themselves, but also to fix their own situation, right? These things take time. I need a social security card. I need a birth certificate. I need to process these things are weeks, right? And while you're waiting for these things to take place, you're still in the space that you're in, and it feels like it's taken forever, right? So our time and their time has to feel so much
urgency that I keep saying.
And so many of us that have experienced homelessness and have slept in a car or slept outside, those hours tick by and it's an eternity, right? We're so busy, we're running out of time. For them, it's just, you know, this ongoing hell, right? But you tell them to pull yourself up from your bootstraps. You know, my surgeon, his friend actually helped to build Pendleton Place. You know, one of the things that he was saying about that was, well, isn't, you know, any of the homeless mental health or drug or alcohol addicted? And I was like, no, I think the consequence is life, and now they're homeless, and that is what becomes, because, man, I've got to try to survive. Many of us are self-medicating off of whatever it is, just coping from day to day. So now you're homeless with your children, whatever the situation is, you're a cast off and you're a throwaway, and people are driving past you all day long. You got the COVID boat and everything else, new cars, but this is your plight, and no one gives a damn. And how do you dig yourself out?
It's a stigma that hangs on you, and it's not necessarily that you're a failure. It's that our world has moved on from people. Our world is becoming, and I'm just going to say it out there, Marwan usually shakes his head about this moment, that our world has become about wealth generation. And the rest of us can go fish. Except that more and more of us are going to continue to become homeless, and there aren't going to be any fish left.
Can I I'm gonna dispute that. Yeah, just a little bit. Just a little bit.
Bring it.
I say that you know, we may just be realizing that, but it's always been the case. That has always been the case. We've always prioritized you know, the corporations and the businesses that bring in the dollars and not the people. And this is a problem across the board, across our country.
Disputing what?
Well, yeah, I'm agreeing that you're saying that it's become. I'm saying that it's always been. We live in a capitalized society, which is fine, but we cannot prioritize capitalism over people, and they have to be the priority. Certain things that should be human rights, like medical, housing, water. We live in the richest nation in the world, in the history of the world, and we still have people in this country that don't have access to clean drinking water. That's like mind-boggling to me. So our focus has to shift away from incentivizing, in which I like your idea about, hey, build us 500 and you can get this. We have to shift away from, compromising and, incentivizing, businesses and corporations just to get them to give people, humanity a handout. And we got to play hardball and say, look, you can sink or swim. It doesn't matter, because I will take any one single life is more valuable than any 9, 10, a million corporations and their stock portfolios or anything else, and so we have to, my belief is we have to get hard-nosed and we need, and I know it's probably unpopular, we need more government right now to step in and put some restrictions and holds on these companies and their free reign of just terrorizing humanity in this country. People shouldn't have things taken away from them just to kind of rush them through. There shouldn't be such a thing as temporary housing. Like, what does that mean? This is God's good earth, and there's so much land. We have boarded up buildings and boarded up apartments, and we have so much resources. How can we sit here and say that, I'm going to temporarily let you stay in a place, or I'm going to give you a handout of food? We throw away more food than we actually eat. It's a tragedy, how we treat people. We treat God's most precious creation as just throwaways, and we look for ways to manipulate and get over one another, and it's sickening. It is absolutely sickening. So if you ask me, we need our government to do what it's supposed to do, which is be for the people. It's supposed to be by the people and for the people, but it's always seems to be for the next corporation that's willing to donate to your campaign, or buy you $1,000 ice cream or whatever else. I don't know, but it's like I'm tired of it. We need people that's gonna stick up for our humanity. I'm sorry, sir. That's my rant. That's my rage. I don't behave. I apologize.
That's fine. I'm listening. If we could, I would like to change our language. Instead of issues, I focus on values. Instead of government, I focus on governments, and actually more than that. There is an old big lie, and the old big lie is this: government is not the solution to our problem. Government is the problem. Now, that was in a presidential address. You might guess who it is. I'm thinking there is a new truth, a big new truth, same as the old big truth. And that is, it's about us. It's about we the people, together with business organizations or profit organizations, nonprofit organizations, governments, and 7.6 million human beings in this place we called Washington, our home, community, society, system. It's about us.
Hats off to wisdom.
This is a
So one thing that I was going to say too, in terms of the experience of homelessness, as well, is that I see more people that are fully employed full time that are starting to experience homelessness.
Yes.
And
So-
that is people who have a full time job that are experiencing homelessness. And I know that because I was one of those people.
Yeah.
I was one of those people.
I agree.
And that's the thing, is that a lot of the programs that we do have available right now, you can only make up to 1186.
That part.
And if you make past 1186, well, too bad.
Let's see, what's minimum wage again?
15, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
But 15, you can't live off of 15.
No, you're stuck in poverty.
Yeah, you're
No,
stuck
but-
in poverty.
But you see
And-
the disparity.
and the thing
If
is,
the number is 15, it's
One-
1186.
Yeah, and the thing is, like, you know, like I was saying with the statistics, you know, the rent is increasing faster than the wages, you know, so yeah, you have, you know, professors, college professors living out of their cars, you know,
That's
you
true.
have, you know, people with good jobs that, you know, like you can't go and get and this is one of, and I've been saying this for years, this is one of the biggest catastrophes that this country made, was getting rid of the factories in this country and shipping all of our work overseas. Like, you know, that is what saved our butts in World War II, was all those factories. So I was like, what sense does that make? Because if something happens again, where's all the factories going to push out all those Shermans? Crappy little Shermans that couldn't stand up to the Panzer, but we had so many of them that, you know, just sheer numbers was able to overcome. But like, whose bright idea was to say, well, you know what, we don't never need that anymore, that resource anymore? That's insane. So you can't go get a factory job and survive anymore. You know, they're closing, they're automating pretty much everything. So like everything's automated, and it's like, okay, now where's my job at? You know, you're giving it away, and then, you know, you're pricing me out of school. I can't really afford to go and get a higher education, and if I do, the degree that I get, you know, I may not very well be able to use it to do anything more than, you know, excuse my French, but, you know, go to do some private business somewhere, but, you know, and call, you know, anyway. So it's like where do we start having some compassion and humanity for humans, you know, and one another? You know, we have gas prices, and the president just got on. I was watching it while you guys are out here doing this. President got on today, and he's saying that he's asking Congress for a 3-month tax holiday. You know, okay, that's maybe 18, 20 cents a gallon off. Okay, that's really not going to help. You know, these corporations are bleeding us dry, and we know once they get a sniff of blood, they're not going to go back. I remember in the 90s, we was paying, when I first kind of came up this way, I was paying like $1 a gallon for gas.
119.
You know, yeah. Well, I remember cheaper than that.
Yeah,
Trust me.
I was in California at that time. So
Yeah.
I was a baby looking at it.
So how old are you? I got some gray hairs. I try to keep them cut off. But, you know, I remember like when stuff was kind of affordable, and that was even like after a huge inflation. But the thing is, once these corporations kind of get a sense of like, okay, they'll pay it, then they're not going to go back. You know, we're not going to, you know, get under 5, you know, no more. It's just going to go up. You know, 5 is going to be the new minimum.
Which isn't necessarily going to end up being a bad thing in the long run. But right now, it's such we're at peak gas already. We don't have gas.
Hold on. You know, and I get your premise there, right? But the thing is, how many of us are going to make it to the long run? Right, with this, right?
I argue that.
You know what I'm saying? Because
it's not being driven for the people or by the people. It's being driven for profit.
we have roads buckling, literally buckling in the middle of the country right now because of heat. there was a recording of temperature of 165 degrees, over in the Middle East. Yes, just a day or two ago. Things are not getting better. So who's going to make it there? We're bleeding each other dry. We're killing our thank you. And my brain gets like, but anyway, so it's like, how many of us are going to make it there? And the rich, they're they got their little escape plan, like, oh, we're going to go to Mars or the moon and colonize or whatever else, and we see what where their focus is. But the rest of us, this is like how many of us are going to make it to that? And we got to be real, and like some of us may be a little bit, higher than others economically or whatever, but we got to like all realize that none of us are that, top 1% or whatever, and like band together and say, no, because, the truth is the power has always been with the people, and if we take our power and, start saying like, look, I'm not going to put Pelosi or Turtle Man, what's his name? Anyway,
Mitch.
Thank you. I'm not gonna put neither one of you back in office. You know what I'm saying? And I'm gonna fire all of you. That's my big bright idea. Fire the whole Congress, Senate, all of them, and replace them with new people. Ain't none of y'all coming back.
And that's the status quo that you were talking about in terms of that's why we need leaders that don't come from the same background.
Yeah.
Right.
We need representatives who actually have the same experience as we do. And I could preach on that one.
Supposed to be.
I don't know if your question was rhetorical or not. But yet the question was, who was it that sent our jobs overseas? It was Bill Clinton. I'm sorry to have to say that.
Actually, it was Reagan and Clinton. They were both,
Oh, okay.
They were both equally guilty of that.
Okay, I'll go along with that.
It's two sides of the same coin.
Yeah.
And they play us against each other like we're stupid. And when the cameras are off, they're willing and yelling.
Pardon?
Bill Clinton worked with Alan Greenspan to overturn Glass-Steagall, which has created the rolling recession we've had since the 90s.
Yeah, he listened to the wrong advisor. I can't remember the advisor's name now, but
Okay, so I want to answer your question. How, well, all of them in some way. So how does that change? How do we address that? We start right here in this room. We start right here in Bremerton. We start right here in Kitsap County. We come together, we talk about the issues, we decide what the priorities are. And it isn't that hard because we all have the same priorities. It doesn't matter who we are or what our experience is. We need to eat, we need to live, we need shelter. These are priorities we can all agree on. We start addressing those priorities together here. And then we go tell the politicians what they need to do to make it happen after we've talked about it, and we partner with them to make it happen. Starting here.
That's where I disagree with you at. That part right there. Instead of, like all of that, you hit me until you said we go tell the politicians. That's where we got to stop at. We have to go and be the politicians.
Well, that too.
That I agree
We have to have,
with.
absolutely, we have to have
to go and
representative
be the-
politicians,
Yes.
but they have to hear the people.
Well, if we are if it is the people that are those in those positions, then we're better off.
I think we're saying the same thing differently.
My problem is, we see, and if you pay attention to politics, every single congressman, or senator we send to Washington, they're all millionaires, plain and simple. Or if they're not when they go, give them 2 or 3 years and they're literally millionaires, So none of them are in our position. AOC, look at, where she's, and she's still like firing out some, some good ones here and there, but she's not, rocking in, our neighborhood anymore. Like, no, her tax problems are higher. Why is it that we're subsidizing, homeowners, the interest they pay on their homes, but people that, that rent, where's their subsidy at? You know, we have a problem right now where we can't get landlords to take the vouchers for Section 8 anymore, right? It's like increasingly difficult to get that, right?
Which is illegal in the state, by the way.
Yeah, it's illegal in most states.
Yeah.
But,
So
you
where's the
know,
legal tool to force them
Right,
into
the T.
doing
By the time
what's
you get
the-
through your mom
what's- what's the more simpler process though?
Well, I'm gonna tell you this.
How about just give the money to the renter and they don't have to, you know, say, oh, take this voucher. They can just pay the rent.
No, I do have to dispute that a little bit due to the fact that I do the T-RAP program along with Marwan.
Can I have one of these waters?
I have partnered with many landlords. You know what I'm saying? Because last year I served over 1,930 clients. This year I've served over we're at 600 and something. So I've almost served over 3,000 people within a year's time for the rental assistance. What I came up with, and since the voucher came up and partnering with the Brampton Housing Authority, my thing, I had a meeting last February with many landlords, property managers. If you guys would have said I did the podcast with Marwan, my thing was educating them to this. You got nothing during the pandemic until the rental assistance comes. You still was behind 2 months. And to get them to accept the vouchers, which I have placed many in places now. I mean, get them to accept the voucher versus if we have another catastrophe, getting 0 or getting 70%, which side of the coin you want to be on. So that's how I have approached all the landlords that have partnered with me to accept the vouchers. And I have 8 apartment complex and property managers that are willing to take the vouchers. The problem is we're having a problems with the rent increasing and the voucher not increasing. Now the voucher has just recently increased last month, but the 3-bedroom people with the voucher can get a place in a lot of these apartments. The people who are struggling is our 2 bedrooms and 1 bedrooms. So some places that have studios, that's where I've been putting my clients who have 1 bedrooms vouchers. And but they make having them, I tell them, you never had a key before, you haven't had a key as long as you have a key. You know what I'm saying? I just meet my people where they're at. So anyway, we put them in those type of places that have studios with a 1 bedroom. Our 2 people, 2 bedroom families are SOL. That's the struggle. Not because the voucher is not meeting what the rent is. You know, so but I'm just trying to tell you, our landlords, they are willing now, quite a few of them, to accept the vouchers because going through the pandemic, getting nothing, and I've told them 70% is better than 0.
True.
And things aren't getting better. So I just wanted to take up for the landlords with that.
Yeah, so I have an odd question for you on the same subject.
Which one?
And I don't know the legality of it, and I'm hoping maybe one of you two do. But I know that somebody said that our state doesn't allow rent control, which I think that the people need to come together and tell the state to put it somewhere else. But it seems to me, well, give me a second, Michael. It seems to me that there is an argument to be made, and I don't know if it's legally possible, to demand the people who have rental properties in the county are going to have to put some of those properties, some of the rentals, a percentage, 2%, 5%, whatever, need to be for low-income housing and vouchers. And just say, it's going to be. We're not going to argue with you. We're not going to try and convince you. You have a property with 100 units, 3 of those units are going to be voucher units.
Do you hear him? I hear exactly what he's saying.
Thank you.
And that is the legality aspect of that. I don't know. That's a question for the prosecuting attorney's office.
Yeah. But it's an interesting idea.
What is it? We see that when with subsidized housing, right?
Yeah.
They're in a fixed 50-year agreement in
Right.
making sure that these dwellings and houses stay affordable, which is exactly what we're seeing. We're seeing these out of county, out of state property management corporations come up and buy all of the affordable housing here, and then under the guise of upgrade and renovation, increasing the price by $500.
Yeah.
And that already prices out our very low inventory of affordable housing that we have.
What that looks like.
We have 130 people. I have it on my board. We had a prominent landlord who owned 130 pieces of property. He sold them, you know what I'm saying, to the high corporations. The rent went up. Some of them were only paying 500, 7, 8. I was surprised on the 5. But they went up all the way to 1,400.
And you know
for
what that
one
is?
bedroom, and this person's on Social Security. So when some of them came into the office, I can pay my rent this month and next month. And so, but the next month I'm not going to be able to afford it because it's going up 1,400. I only get $875 or $869 with Social Security. So we have applications. That's why I have so many applications every month, because people are planning ahead. Then my thing is, like I told you with the landlords, all your tenants that are having a problem, please make sure they sign up for the Section 8. You don't know, I was advocating for that so hard, you know, with my clients, with the landlords, Jim Adrian, Bob Tom Long, many of them, you know, Reader's Property, Reader Management, you know, to tell your clients to sign up for they won't have to struggle. My thing, to wrap me up, my thing is that people in office, you guys, we got to watch who we put in office. Stop looking at their status or who they run with. You know what I'm saying? Or who they're in bed with, or who they're close to. I'm being honest, you know, because my heart weeps for this community. I work damn hard and free. You understand what I'm saying? And this is why people come to me and I'm exhausted right now. You know, I work almost 24 hours a day. And we need to watch who we put in office. All that talking, ooh, so-and-so's name. I almost said the name and I shouldn't. Thank God I held back. But, because this, ooh, that's so-and-so. As long as I'm rubbing elbows with you, I'm in the in group. You know what I'm saying? I'm not about that.
What are we in high school?
Come on, but that's how we're being operated. Or, I'm sorry.
It is.
Oh, I'm sorry. I'm just
I'm
hard
not- I'm
about
not-
it.
No.
But he got to go what he wanted to say.
I'm sorry.
And he was
Go ahead. Sis, go ahead. I'm sorry.
You are doing amazing. And
I'm sorry.
I'm trying to tell you.
One-
don't-
one thing
Okay.
I planned on being gone an hour ago, but I absolutely love the interaction here. And
Yes.
thank you. But I want to regress the conversation a little bit back to the pastors
Go ahead.
when we were talking about the people in office. And it blends into yours as well. And it goes from the most lowly office in the county to the highest office at the federal government. We have promoted career politicians. They never have to live with the consequences of their actions in office.
Come on.
So I would argue that I'm in one of the lowest offices in county government, the county coroner. I came in behind someone who'd been there for 20 years, and not to disparage their work, but they were there for 20 years. Okay. They lost track of the continual push. It takes a continual push to get anything done in political office. I mean, I go home at night exhausted. My wife will attest to that. If you can't accomplish what you were in office to accomplish in 2 terms, it's not going to get done. Time to move on. Someone else needs a chance. And I don't think we're going to get that put through in any type of legislation. It happens right here in this room when you folks go to the ballot box. You've been there 2 terms. It's enough. Move on. Go do something else.
And show up at the open meetings.
But see, that goes back to what I was asking you guys about, saying something nice about the other person. Because like you said, if, you know, our politicians have got this thing about like, oh, I'm the person with the solutions. I'm the one that can do this. And I'm the only one, where, like you say, if I'm not getting it done, then can I have enough, you know what I'm saying, humility and humbleness to say, you know what, let me move out of the way and support somebody else that can, possibly do it.
Mhm.
But instead, it's like, oh, I got to be the HIN, what is HINC?
HNIC.
There you go. Thank you. So it's not
How
it.
this one it's found on that.
Yeah, but yeah, we got to learn to, say, you know what, I can
Mine
step
came with a
aside
different
and let somebody else do the work.
But my thing is, I need to ask this. This is a question for white people. Why?
Wait, I gotta go.
Oh, okay, no. And we're being transparent here.
Yeah.
Okay,
Come
no
on,
worries.
this is real talk. My thing is that we always pick that token person of color. It can be Indian, African American, what have you, just to keep our good old boy Thrive going. We have got to change that. You know what I'm saying? I'm not gonna like a meeting happened today. You know what I'm saying? They pick the token because they gonna do what we say. We call them house Negroes. You know what I'm saying? That's gonna follow and shut up and let you still keep doing the same stuff to us. That has got to stop and change right now because all of us matter. You know what I'm saying? And it's gonna take all of us coming together. You know what I'm saying? We've got to put the right people in office.
Right here, right now, all of us.
Yeah, right here, right now. I'm
You
sorry.
No, you did not wrong. I'm just gonna tell you, you gotta update your language. It ain't house Negro no more. It's called the Ben Carsons.
Oh, I didn't know.
It was a joke. It was a joke. You
Go
missed
ahead,
it.
Terry.
I'm sorry. I missed it.
Yeah, I have a question for the candidates. I wanted to know, do you know the process of who monitors the turnover rate for temporary housing? Like the housing that's 90 days, those people who are in there past that, how do you monitor that, or how do you have like conflict resolution for people who have not found housing and that are still in temporary housing?
So I myself, I was in temporary housing through the YWCA. And that for me was, again, my point of privilege. And that was one of the only organizations that respected me as a person, irrespective of who I was outwardly, right? And for them, again, it was, I stayed there for 6 months. 3 months past the allotted amount of time that I was supposed to. And that isn't, that's not fair, or that's not right. And the reason why we don't have that data is because every single organization does it by themselves. So what you're speaking upon is having that communication and the transparency throughout all of our service providers to see where those gaps are happening, to see those cracks of where they're formulating, because you're right? A person should be able to get housed within 90 days. It's ridiculous, right?
And I'm gonna tell you, and you're correct about that privilege. I have my nephew's mother, which she's white. She's been in that housing program that's just supposed to be 90 days. She's been there now for 3 to 4 years. And you're supposed to get a voucher and move on, from my understanding. But it is all about power, privilege, and differences. And that has to change.
Well, and it comes, sorry.
No, go
I'm
ahead.
speaking out of turn again, but it comes with some transparency, okay? And we have to be able to admit we're wrong.
That's true.
You have to admit there's a problem.
And it's okay. We're all people in here, okay? And even in the office I hold now, made some mistakes.
Have you hired people of color in your office since you've been in office?
I haven't had any apply. And I don't know, I'm at a loss. I don't know where to go. We've hired.
Bruh, let's keep it real. We ain't really trying to be around no dead bodies.
I know. I do all the time. I clean them up and everything.
I mean, most of us ain't trying to do all.
Right? I hired 3 females. One of them being the doctor, who's, she's the highest paid official in the county, working as our medical examiner. But I get back to my original premise. There have been some spots where we have failed, whether individual families or certain groups. And it's like, that impacts me on a personal level because I live here too. I raised my family here. I don't when I go home, I want my kids to be able to look and go, dang, dad's doing the right things for the right reasons. That's what we need to. You don't need a whole bunch of Jeff Wallaces, please. That is definitely not where we want government to go. But we do need to have people that are doing the right things for the right reasons.
Jump in there.
Sorry.
Right here, put it over there, sir.
I can't keep my thoughts together. Right?
Oh.
No, it's all right. No, you're fine. You're fine.
Well, I want to share a story with you when you brought up the idea, the concept of transparency. I was at a Lions meeting, one of my Lions meetings, and I got up and I said, when I was 11, my father and I were exiting a restaurant, and out of the blue, my father said, "You're my little Siwash." The only thing I knew was that my father loved me. In fact, he used more than 50% of his salary to keep me on room and board and clothing. And then 9 years later, 8 years later, I was working in the woods. And there's an individual called the rigging slinger, and he keeps the chokerman out of the way of the lead 5-inch cable or whatever it was. And we put the cables around the logs, and the logs began to haul back to the landing, and then they stopped. And the rigging slinger said, "Uh-oh, we got a Siwash." And so my curiosity got me, and I looked in the dictionary for the meaning of Siwash. And the meaning is all mixed up. Well, I'm all mixed up because my DNA consists of Volga German, French, Métis, Chehalis, Okanagan, and Lake. So I'm transparent now.
All right, hold on there, Mark. All right, so we've gone way over time. I want to thank our candidates for being so gracious. You didn't know what you were in for. Right? I was like, hey, come share a little bit. And you get all these questions fired at you.
I was ready to experience life.
Oh, really? Okay, I love it. I love it. I love it. Well, we hope that maybe we can keep this conversation going. I think it's important.
What I was going to say.
As we go forward.
The 14th of July is episode 25.
Okay. So
I'd like to invite the candidates back for that discussion. We're doing a little bit of a presentation about some concepts that we've been working up to with the tipping points and puzzle pieces. And if Rev can make this room available for that, we'll do it a little differently than we normally do tipping points. And come in here and have a conversation. Tipping points and puzzle pieces is another podcast that Marwan and I do. And it's mostly about the Kitsap Resiliency Project. And we talk about perspective changes and concepts like food for all, and create an industry in Kitsap County around growing our own food so that we can offset some of the disastrous things. Power for All, we talk about things that people don't know about in the world that I and my organization have been doing research on for about 20 years. Mm-hmm. And so we cover those. And I've been teasing Marwan now for about a month about questions he's asking. He says, well, we're going to talk about it at episode 25, which will be July 14th. And it's going to be an interesting episode talking about what things can be if we choose to let them become. Mm-hmm. And I'd love to have you here to give input about your thoughts on that.
So that sounds like fun. I would say, yes, I think the space will be available. If you cannot make it in person, we can send you a link virtually. But yeah, you can make it. Absolutely. Yeah.
And we keep it to an hour generally.
Yeah, yeah, we have a hard hour because I have a show with Birmingham Housing Authority and KCR right after that. And that was at the second that the second Wednesday?
Yeah, because the 24th, episode 24 is on the 7th.
And then, yeah. So,
So it's a
second
week after.
Wednesday, I also have Kirsten Jewell from the county comes on to the podcast at 3 p.m. So
When?
back to back. She comes every second Wednesday now onto the podcast. Oh, yeah. Deborah looking at me like, what?
I didn't even know that.
So
Yeah, she's been on twice. This last month and the month before. She came on to talk about what's the heart program. She came on with the guy who runs heart. And then she came on the previous month and came on to talk about that pieces.
Well, I'm glad to have, I would like to have these guys, the politicians, come on when she comes on.
Please don't swear at me like
Well, you know what I can
Call me
do.
no politician.
I'm not elected yet.
Well, I'm
Yeah.
just saying, but you guys, these candidates, come on when she comes on because they're running for a seat that they'll be her boss.
So why don't we do this? Tell me again, what is the 14th about?
the 14th is episode 25.
There's too many content.
I'm not going to tell you that.
No,
yet.
tell me the gist.
Oh, the gist of it is talking about the future we can have if humans can come together.
All right, the future we can have. So what I'll do is I'll reach out to Kirsten, Matt, and Jill, the ED from BHA,
Oh, yeah.
and see if we can combine the shows, make it one long show, from 1 to
3.
And then you'll be on there with the executive director of the Department of Housing Authority, Matt, who was here earlier, then Katie Sharp, their communications manager, and then Kirsten Jewell from the county. And then, yeah, that'd be awesome.
we have
Okay.
And I just want to finish with
You have a League of Women's Order on that day?
Yeah.
What time? Oh, that night?
yeah, it doesn't start till 6.
Okay. Does that work?
Yeah,
Gonna be super tired.
we're gonna be very good buddies by the end of it.
Good, good.
Yeah, so I was going to say, if one of you doesn't make this one, I think you should move to South Kitsap and run for the next one, and then we'll stack the commissioners board with people that'll actually do things.
You're not both running for the same position, are you?
Yes.
Yes,
You
they
are?
are. Yeah.
What? Well, that's even more impressive that you both come and have this conversation.
You're playing for choice now.
Hey, I like that. But I appreciate that, right?
Absolutely.
No, that's important.
This is what makes it work.
Yeah.
Definitely. You know what? I just want to say this. Don't talk about it, be about it. And that's all I have to say. I wanted to leave that out there.
And I want to finish with a quote from Mary Spender.
If you talk about it, be about
Absolutely. And I want to keep everybody mindful with a quote from Mary Spender, who's a singer-songwriter that I follow on YouTube. And she said this in the most beautiful way possible. I try to fail better every day.
it.
You learn more from your failures and your successes.
That's the truth, because I sure have.
All right, so we had a really good episode today. Thanks to Mark and Jeff, and Leomi and Deborah and Pastor Ellington. Tell me your name again. Gene, and everyone else that was here earlier. I am R1 Cameron. This is The Conduit. We will see you, well, tonight at 5 p.m. for the city council meeting. So busy Wednesday.